Republican Congressman Duncan Hunter appeared in federal court Tuesday after being indicted for misusing campaign funds. However, his trial will not begin before Election Day. The judge denied a request to waive Hunter's appearance for an upcoming hearing. Hunter and his wife allegedly used $250,000 worth of campaign funds for personal expenses. They have pled not guilty to the charges. President Trump recently criticized Attorney General Jeff Sessions for the indictments of Hunter and another Republican, Chris Collins, who was indicted on charges of insider trading. He said, quote, "Two easy wins now in doubt because there is not enough time. Good job, Jeff." KQED political reporter Marisa Lagos joins us now to discuss the latest on Hunter and the California midterm elections. Thanks for joining us, Marisa.
Thanks for having me.
So have we seen any signs at all that Congressman Hunter is in danger of losing his seat?
Not really. You know, that is a very Republican district. They have a double-digit registration advantage there. You know, a lot of the reporting I've seen out of there, I think that the biggest impact could be folks staying home on the Republican side, not necessarily booting him out. You know, we'll have to see what happens between now and Election Day, but as you said, this is not going to go to trial before then. And I think that there's a sense that, you know, Republican voters may just vote to keep him in office and replace him if he indeed gets convicted.
Well, President Trump endorsed Paul Cook for Congress on Tuesday, a congressman. What more can you tell us about Cook and the race for California's 8th congressional district?
Yeah, I mean, that was an interesting thing for him to weigh in on. I would assume it probably came at the ask of leadership from the Republican Party. Paul Cook is running against Tim Donnelly. He's being challenged by the right. Donnelly is a former state assemblyman who made a lot of headlines in California as part of the Minuteman movement. If you remember, this is, you know, pre-Donald Trump, right. Very sort of strong anti-immigration, strong border. He is pretty far right. He's been an outspoken Donald Trump supporter, so I think it's interesting that the president would weigh in on the side of Paul Cook, who, it should be said, is a very staunch Republican, you know, has been a good vote for the president as well.
Back on Congressman Hunter. Hunter is facing Democrat Marc, who was trailing in the polls even before Hunter's indictment. How has responded to his opponent's arrest?
You know, he's really dug in. I mean, he is trying to sort of ride this wave. He's a very interesting candidate, I would say, for that district. He's very progressive, has the kind of sort of resume that you would think would do well on the coast, quite frankly. And so he has been hitting that issue hard, really talking about the corruption, tying him to Donald Trump. Duncan Hunter, of course, was the second member of Congress after the first in New Jersey that also has been indicted to back the president. And so I think that as much as he can sort of tie those two together and talk about this criminal case against Hunter, he's going to do it.
Well, moving on to the Senate race, Dianne Feinstein is seeking her 6th term in the Senate. She easily won the primary in June, but the State Democratic Party Executive Committee held a vote to support her opponent. Is that a sign that she's lost favor with more liberal members of the party?
Probably. I mean, you know, Dianne Feinstein has never been a very liberal Democrat. For years, she was seen as much more moderate. She has been pushed, I would say, to the left by both Kevin De Leon challenging her and just by the reality of Washington in the last few years. But I wouldn't take that as a sign that Democrats themselves are going to put her out of office. It is a very hard battle for Kevin De Leon. He does not have a lot of name ID. And, you know, she won overwhelmingly in the primary, including in his own state Senate district. So I do think that party activists are frustrated, and this is, you know, a continuing conversation we've seen out of 2016 from the left flank of the party, feeling like maybe some of the older school Democrats aren't listening to them. But I would be very surprised if those numbers translated to even a very strong showing at the polls for him.
Finally, Marisa, California's Governor Jerry Brown will soon be out of his post after serving 2 terms in the state's highest office. The current Lieutenant Governor, Gavin Newsom, would like that job and has campaigned on a very ambitious but expensive liberal agenda, including universal health care and preschool. Now, California is facing numerous financial crises. How is that financial picture impacting the race?
Well, Well, not a ton, I would say. I mean, I think that critics of Newsom seize on those issues, and what he would say is that he wants to study them and perhaps bring down state costs in those areas. Whether that's possible, we could debate another day. But, you know, again, you have to look at the registration numbers. It's sort of the inverse of Duncan Hunter's district when you look statewide. Republicans actually have fewer party members right now than no party preference voters in California. Gavin Newsom's opponent, John Cox, is trying to seize on some of the issues you brought up. He's been touring DMVs and talking about the long lines and sort of trying to put some of these issues on Democrats who do run the state. But Newsom's polling very strongly, and again, it's really an uphill battle for Cox to win this.
All right, Marisa Lagos, thanks very much for your insight, Marisa.
My pleasure.